will come to order. Please call the roll. Mr. Scarry, sorry. Take your time.
Present. Stretz. Stone. Scarry, present. Van Fleet. Present. Medford.
Present. All please rise and salute our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Item 1, approval of the minutes of February 1st, 2016. There's a motion for approval, seconded by Mr. Scarry. All in favor? All opposed? Minutes are carried. Mr. Benedetto.
There was a few things in the minutes that I had questions on at our last meeting, and I was hoping that I didn't see them in this week's packet, but I know we're planning on doing a subcommittee meeting regarding the academics test scores, and I want to just make sure that we put that on the agenda to make plans for that meeting. That's number one. And I was wondering if we were able to get missing subgroups for the Roberts School accountability report, if the district found out any of that information, and that. And the second one, it went out just to Roberts School parents, or if it went out to the whole Title I district as a whole.
Mr. Superintendent.
So as you know, the mayor appointed subcommittees at the last time, and there's a curriculum subcommittee, and this was reported to the subcommittee so that, shortly in the future we'll have a curriculum subcommittee on the issue of the academics. The information, the administration met with the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, got a lot more data, and as a result we'll bring that to the subcommittee. And thirdly, Diane's here to talk about the letter. I don't know how that specifically
We
was
weren't sure if it was just going to the Roberts or if it was to go to all Title I students in the whole district.
The letter, the accountability letter, went out to the Title I schools. So it would be the Roberts, the Columbus, and the McGlynn Elementary schools.
So all schools needed to receive that letter?
Yes.
Not just the Roberts school?
That's right.
Okay, and that was given to parents would take in next steps necessary?
That's correct. So it went out through an email from my office to the principals, and the principals disseminated that to the parents.
Okay. So we'll follow up further at the, I know I'm not on that subcommittee, but I'll probably attend this meeting. So yeah, we'll follow up soon at that meeting and just brainstorm for next steps to make sure our scores rise above.
Love to have you there. That would be great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item 2, approval of bills, transfer of funds. Mr. Scarry. Motion for approval, seconded by Ms. Vanderkloot. All in favor? All opposed? Approval of funds is granted. Approval of payrolls, Mr. Scarry. Motion for approval by Mr. Scarry, seconded by Ms. Vanderkloot. All in favor? All opposed? Motion approved. Report of the secretary. None. Report of committees. None. We have awards. Is there a motion on the floor for suspension of the rules to take item 2?
Suspend the order of business so we can take up number 2, report on Boston Globe Scholastic Writing Awards.
There's a motion on the floor for suspension of the rules. All those in favor? All those opposed? Suspension is granted. Item 2, report on Boston Globe Scholastic Writing Awards.
Madam Mayor and members of the committee, we'll call upon our deputy superintendent to lead the discussion in this particular area. No? Who's going to do it? Oh, okay. We're going to call upon our director of humanities to do it.
Good evening.
Good evening. The Boston Globe Scholastic Writing and Arts Awards offer an opportunity for students to be recognized for their creative talents. And this year, Medford had an unprecedented 35 Scholastic Writing Award winners. We had 5 receiving gold keys, 8 receiving silver keys, and 22 receiving honorable mention. In addition to having recurring winners from last year, this year also represents the first time we had middle school students, 6 in total, earning a Boston Globe Writing Award. We also had 3 students receiving a Scholastic Art Award. We had 2 silver keys and 1 honorable mention, and we're very proud of the students tonight. All winners will receive a certificate for the award, Our gold and silver key winners will also receive a pin, and they will be honored in a special award ceremony on March 12th at the Museum of Fine Arts. Additionally, the gold key winners are entered into a national competition. So their entries are sent directly to New York, and they're entered in a national competition where they have the opportunity to compete for scholarships. So we're very excited for these students. And pending parental approval, you will see these writing submissions on the humanities, on the English Language Arts website, if you'd like to review. I'd like to ask the teachers who supported the students in this to come up as we give out the awards. I want to thank them for all of their time. They selflessly devoted extra time. Tonight we have Mr. Ambrose with us, we have Mr. Bostock, come on. We have Ms. Zeckman, Mr. Heinig, and Ms. Stevens, as well as Ms. Liu, and Mr. Bowen Flynn could not be here tonight. And we're very proud of our students, so we'd like to give the awards. I don't know if you want us to come up to give the awards or how you want to go.
Yes, please.
Okay.
If you could come up. Congratulations, the Medford Public Schools is proud to recognize Isadora Martin, Boston Globe 2016 Scholastic Writing Award Gold Key. If you could please come forward. Isadora?
Yeah.
Sure, if all the kids could line up and we'll call you up one at a time.
Teachers can come on too. Oh, Isadora has rehearsal tonight.
Isadora has rehearsal. We have Hannah Rogers. She's the Boston Globe 2016 Scholastic Writing Award Gold Key. Hannah? Hannah Rogers? No? She's on her way.
Okay.
Carly Roy, Scholastic Writing Award Gold Key. Carly? Hello, Carly. Congratulations.
Great last name.
Robin Sharma, Scholastic Writing Award Gold Key. Robin? Brianna Sampao, Gold Key. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
We now have the Scholastic Writing Award Silver Key. Shema Azam. Kathleen Campbell.
Come on this way.
Congratulations, Kathleen. Quinn Chang. Congratulations. Isadora Martin won a silver key as well. Isadora.
Yes.
She's Valentina Luma. Megan Malloy, silver key. Congratulations. Zoe Salvato Cutter. Maha Shafiq. Congratulations. Victoria Rashi. Congratulations. Stephen Spires. We now have the honorable mention, Albert Farrar. Congratulations. Thank you. Good job. Sharp. Emily Brosnan. Brendan Cirlone. Brendan? Valerie DePina. Congratulations. Thank you. Jasmine D. McClang. Aiden Donovan. Michael Fenn. Analia Fidela. Christian Gaddy. Daniel Gross. Congratulations, Daniel. Shannon Hardy. Congratulations. Mom wants the picture.
Welcome back. Shannon.
Amel Hassan. Lucy Hines. Eric Lamb. Congratulations, Eric. Good job. Malika Limon. Samantha Lou. Kyle McGinley. Stephen Spires. Brianna Saunders Correa. Nice job. Charles Todd Hunter. Justin Tsang. Congratulations, Justin. Nice job. Good to see you again. Julia Shanahan. Hannah Rogers with Shea. Hannah Rogers. That was a gold key for Hannah.
Just want to congratulate everybody who was here tonight and all of our winners. And again, a big thank you and maybe a round of applause for our teachers who really supported the students.
on the floor to revert to the regular order of business by Ms. Vanderklut. All those in favor? All those opposed? We're now under community participation. Ms. Vanderklut, you wanted to make a commentary?
Yes, there was a parent in the audience who had written us, Ms. Valdez.
Is there a Ms. Valdez? Your name and address for our record, please.
Bielka Valdez, 113 Fellsway West.
Welcome.
Thank you. I wanted to take a quick minute to address the school committee, just to have a voice to some concerns on some slight miscommunications, especially regarding financial decisions. There was a school trip sponsored by the GSA and Amnesty International Club in November that was canceled for safety reasons. As a parent, I greatly appreciate the sense in putting children's safety first, and I did not disagree with the decision to cancel the trip. Upon canceling the trip, there was a lot of miscommunication as to refunds. There was some communication about a percentage being reimbursed from the insurance company, and then talks as to what will happen with the remainder of the funds and or what other activities to replace what the activity was canceled. The teachers have done a great job doing their best to try to communicate with the parents, but since November, there has not been a meeting, a memo, or general email with next steps follow-up. My major concern as a parent is that 25% that was not reimbursed from the insurance. The teachers have informed me that financial decisions are with you guys. So basically I'm trying to find out if there is any follow-up next steps and what has been planned or discussed. I spoke with Mr. Belson on the phone in December. There was a problem with the insurance identifying me. They did not know who I was. I was asking for the check to be canceled and sent to me instead of my child's father. And there was more concern and more identifying who I was and proving that I proved for the trip instead of trying to work with me. And unfortunately, Mr. Belson, when I asked, what about the remainder? Your words to me were, I don't care about that right now. And that concerns me because I would love for these opportunities to continue. I would love to see something like this happen in the future, but just with more of a strategic plan on how to communicate with the parents of any what ifs, because those what ifs were not fully communicated. And thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Valdez. Mr. Belson.
Madam Mayor and members of the committee, unfortunately the trip had to be canceled, or we agreed that it should be canceled because of the circumstances in the world at that particular time. We worry about security. We've had several other discussions about security and safety in recent times, and obviously a decision was made at that time based on what we knew and what might be a threat, because there were threats on Washington at that time. When people signed up for the trip, and I have the material and I believe it was put in your packet, information was part of the sign-up that talked about a cancel for any reason insurance program. And that program guaranteed 75% back. Getting a company to agree initially to pay it back, if you ever deal with an insurance company, you know that it isn't just a phone call. That we had to follow up, and we were able to get the 75% back, albeit it took several phone calls and work on staff. Bernadette Regadelli did a lot of work to follow up on that as well. At the time, we said we would try to convince the company that this was an unusual circumstance and that it should be 100% back, because it wasn't something that was canceled because we just decided not to go. This was a world situation that came out of nowhere, and there was a lot of planning into it. We also discussed what else could we do going forward, and we referred that back to the trip planners, the people that had sponsored the activity, and said we would work with you to come up possibly with an alternative activity that might provide some kind of experience for our young people who wanted to go on that trip. When Ms. Valdez contacted my office, she indicated to me that the refund was going to the wrong person. Now, we don't know who the wrong person is because the refund goes to the person whose name is on the form that the insurance company has. In this instance, it was someone who she disagreed with should be getting the return. It's necessary on our part in due diligence to make sure that she was entitled to the refund. And we had to talk to the company. We just couldn't just simply say, okay, we'll give it to you because you say you're the person who's going to get the refund. It's not that simple. A lot of people will claim ownership of a refund, but it has to be done officially and professionally with an outside company because they're not writing a check to someone if they're not sure it's going to the right source. As far as I don't care about that right now, I would never say that. If you interpret it that way, I don't believe I said it, but if I did, I apologize for that, but quite frankly, I would never say that to anybody. Of course we care about people and getting their refunds back and getting their materials. Now, the question then boils down to, there are 32 youngsters who lost approximately $230 each. If the committee wants to make whole, the committee just simply has to direct the administration to make it whole, or their portion thereof. But we don't make that decision for you. That's something you can request of us and approve for us. However, anytime something like this happens, you are setting a precedent. Because if you do it this time, it's conceivable that in the future you will be asked to do it again and again and again. You can vote that this is a one-time situation. You can take all kinds of options if you decide to do it. We've had 2 or 3 inquiries on this subject out of 32 people. I'm sure everybody would be interested in getting all of their money back if it were possible. But that's a decision that this body has to make and direct the administration as to whether you want to do that. And again, you may be setting a precedent, or if you want to frame it in such a way so that this is a one-time only situation and the buyer beware in the future, that's possible too. So it's up to you, it's what you want to do. I certainly don't want to tell you what the right thing to do is because you may have some feeling that this was something that was an extraordinary event. You may have some feeling that because we canceled it, it was an extraordinary event. $200, $230 is not a small sum for some families. For other families, it's maybe not as much. So it's a decision that we make together, and if you did make a decision, we will act on it.
Ms. Kretz, your light, would you like to speak?
Oh, I think my light went off.
Your light was on.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Ms. Cunyo.
First of all, I just want to make sure that we have it all. I know that when we spoke and we made the decision of canceling, at that point in time, I know that we had discussed, and I know that after our meeting, I believe Paulette and myself had discussed with a lot of the parents that we were going to try to do something, and with the superintendent too, that we were going to try to do something. If we weren't going to be able to get all the money back, we were going to try to do something in its place. So I guess at this point in time, through you to the superintendent, is there anything that we've come up with to do for the students? Like, we were going to do something in its place because we couldn't bring the students to Washington. We were going to try to do something for the students here. That was the last we had spoken about it, and we were talking about maybe trying to get representatives and some of our state legislators and, maybe even some of our congressmen to come and have a breakfast or something with our students. And I knew that at that point in time when we were speaking to some of the parents that were here, they felt, and please, I apologize if I'm speaking for you, but I think at that point in time you were okay in place of the $230 if we couldn't get everything, because the parents felt that they were getting something in its place, because unfortunately it is something that is beyond our control. And to be honest with you, that's where I thought we were at this point in time, because we were going to try to do something later on.
Can you respond?
Okay, so at this point in time, there is no specific that's in place. There have been some prior discussions about it, but most of our Washington types and the like have been busy. There's an election season underway, and some of the early phone calls have clearly not resulted in much activity yet. It may be that after tomorrow, the March 1 activity, the election, that some people will then have a little bit more time from the Massachusetts delegation, and maybe we'll be able to round up some kind of meeting that would go forward. But at this point in time, there's nothing really new to report on that.
Is there, at this point in time, I mean, as you said, I mean, $230 for some people is a lot. For some people, it might not be. 32 students at $230 is $7,360 for us. Because this is out of our control, is there anything else that the insurance company or the agency will do to work with us to try to pick up on that 25%?
So we pursued them, and quite frankly, they stood their ground because they have a plan, they have a policy, and they stood with it. And I imagine they might have had other requests from other places, and while we think we're the only trip that got canceled, there are probably a lot of trips that got canceled, and there are probably a lot of investment dollars that they may have had to make at this point in time. So their answer to us at this point is no.
Okay. Honestly, speaking to the students that were here that evening, I think they were so excited, and yes, it was about the money, but it was also the point of they were really looking forward to meeting and sitting down with their legislators, and really they had concerns, they had questions, they were very motivated in doing something. And honestly, I think that if we could really try more diligently in trying to really work something out, in working out some type of a meet and greet or a breakfast or something for this group, I think honestly that would really rectify this whole situation.
Well, another option could be that, you know, we see what the next month brings, and if we come up with something, we bring it back to you, and you tell us whether or not it's sufficient, or you feel it's something you want to support in lieu of returning pure dollars or doing nothing.
But more importantly is that even though you come back to us and you have that, you know, that communication with us, it's more important that we have the communication with the parents and the students that are involved.
Well, I think we can do that.
But we have to do that because, I mean, this has been going on since November, and it's not fair to them if we don't have that communication.
We can certainly do that. But right now, we haven't had any traction on additional dollars from the insurance company, nor have we had much movement on an alternative activity.
Ms. Vanderkloot.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So when a student goes on a trip like that, there is a risk, and the risk is that it's canceled. And it is fairly clear in the policy that you'll be 75% would be refunded from the company. However, on the evening that this happened, I remember distinctly that the tone was definitely that we would try and work something out. And again, part of it, as my colleague alludes to, was definitely something for the kids because of their excitement and interest in wanting to undertake this activity. But there is the other piece of the money. Personally, I don't think that we can refund the whole thing from the school department. I actually don't think it would be appropriate. I do think that if I were looking at it in addition to whatever we do, I would be inclined to at least refund $100 to each parent, possibly $115, which would be half of the money. And then it needs to be clear, and the reason I would do that is because it's never happened before. It's never happened since I've sat on the school committee that I remember that we had a similar case, certainly which involved as many students. However, I think it's one of those things where the parent knows that they're taking somewhat of a risk, and so we're sharing the risk, if you would. Gives people back a little bit of money, certainly shows good faith on our part, but then becomes a very clear precedent of saying, you know, in the future, if trips are canceled, the only money which is refunded will be the 75% from the company, because now we have such a clear indication. So my thinking would be, and I'm not going to make it a motion yet because I know other people might have other thinking, but my thinking right now is that we would, I would recommend to refund and 100 or 115, I don't know whatever my colleagues think, and split the difference between us and the parents. And in addition, we would like to see, I'm just sure that if there was an event locally, you know, it's not like we're saying that money covers the cost of the event. We're trying to put together an event with other people just to, so the kids have an opportunity to talk to other people in government. Any thoughts?
There's a motion on the floor to reimburse, is it 100 or 115?
Well, I don't know. I guess, let's say half, 115.
Motion on the floor to reimburse 115 per family. Mr. Scarry.
Madam Mayor, through you to the parent at the podium. When your child signed up for this trip, were you aware that if any cancellations came about, there would be a penalty?
I was aware. My more concern over the actual money was the communication, was what's next. It was more of an emergency situation. The vote was made, the trip was canceled, and that was that. And I would like to also just take a quick brief moment to also reiterate in my email that I sent. I also mentioned that the forms that the insurance had asked for were not filled out by the parents. The students filled out those forms, which concerns me because when it comes to finances, a child under the age of 18 should not be filling out financial documentation.
And also, Madam Mayor, I concur with my colleagues in their opinion. And I would ask that in the future, before we approve any trips for any student groups going anywhere, that this issue was brought up again and made to light so that parents know and fully understand before they sign their life away for their children that if in any event, given the situation of the world affairs today, if there's a cancellation, there is a penalty, and that we can't always, you know, make the parents good for what happens. I mean, they signed the contract. We just approved the trip. And I too was also under the impression, Mr. Superintendent, that we were going to try to rectify the situation some way in-house by bringing in somebody to chat with the kids and hear the children's views on what they had to express at the time. And I hope we can follow through with that. And I know there's only a few months of school left, but I hope we could really get together, put our heads together, and come up with something meaningful for the students.
Well, I know that the advisors on the trip would very much like to do something, but again, you know, I'll reapproach them this week and ask them if they've got any ideas. They've talked to the young people, and if they've got something they would like to do, and we can help them facilitate it. But perhaps incorrectly, but I left it in their hands to, you know, decide whether there was an alternative they felt they wanted to do. And if not, maybe we would come up with something independent of them.
Okay. And if possible, could the students, the chaperones and whatever, meet with the support services subcommittee so we could hear further testimony and come up with a concrete plan for the future?
You can have whatever, you know, subcommittee meeting you want, but I think maybe you might be better off initially allowing some of this to germinate outside so that when they come to you, there's actually concrete statements rather than just simply.
Yeah, I just want to reiterate that we don't want to be in this situation again. You know, it's misfortunate, and this poor parent and probably other parents have gone through, they're probably at their wits' end. And, you know, when you lose 25% of a trip, it's kind of hits hard in the family pocketbook.
Understood.
Thank you. Mr. Benedetto.
Thank you so much. First of all, the children were extremely excited about the trip. But what I'm hearing from you isn't so much the financial piece, which I will get to. It's the communication piece that's a priority for you. And I remember the parents were very, very motivated to have each parent call either individually about the cancellation or, you know, not to make sure that everybody knew the trip was canceled, because it was only like, what, 48 hours, barely 48 hours before the trip that we had canceled this. And you know, you as a parent, you expect weather cancellations, you expect things. We did not expect there to be terrorist attacks on our capital and, you know, the school committee to hear this and to cancel the trip. This is an extremely unusual situation. So first of all, we want to make sure that our communication, whenever we do a trip, is a little bit more involved with the parents and less through the children. I think that's an important piece. So maybe we need to require that all parents attend a meeting prior to children going, not just get the paperwork home, okay? So I, just for future reference, so parents get it. I know that they do meet, but I want, you know, them to really understand all of the things. Did you go to a prior meeting?
Yes,
Okay.
there have always been.
But I think it was more of the excitement of the trip, just having more of it was more packing and being prepared at the airport, not necessarily as parents to make sure that, hey, if you have an option to take up your own insurance on this trip, maybe that's something that you can work out on your own, especially because 100% of the funds came from parents. There were several fundraisers, so there was a lot of finances involved. The final decision to approve or disapprove the trip came from the school committee, but the teachers and the students did all of the better, all of the hard work. The parents did the dipping into their pockets. And at the end of the day, it was so much excitement for such a great opportunity for these kids, something that Medford has never done, especially high school. A lot of universities have taken trips like this, but not high school. So this would have been a first.
Also, we talked about on that evening about the possibility of the children Skyping in to some of the things that were happening at the event. Did any of that take place? Do you know?
From what I'm aware, they had a couple of Skype meetings with some of the representatives' aides, and they had a after-school party, so to speak, to set up.
Great. I'm at least glad that they got that opportunity. And maybe there is some more local opportunities that we can provide for them. But I'm at least glad that they got that, because it would have been very disappointing to me if that they didn't get anything that week when they were so excited about this trip.
Students themselves were very active about stating, let's do something.
Perfect. And that's what I want to see, children advocating for what they need and what they were hoping to get, because that's what we raised them to do. So I'm really happy. I agree with my colleague. I don't believe that, I think this was an extenuating situation. I believe us helping out in this one time is appropriate at 50%. I also believe that we need to tell future parents that about this situation that came about, and that the school committee will not be in the same position to help parents out financially. So I second the motion that's on the floor to have us pay for 50% at this time, and just to make sure that after a trip is canceled, maybe they have a follow-up meeting, just to go over with the parents, okay, we're sorry this didn't happen, this is what's happening now, you need to contact the insurance company, this is how you do it, this is the contact information, and maybe a follow-up meeting would have been helpful, rather than just a call about the cancellation. So those are my suggestions, that's where I'm at, and I'm sorry it was canceled for the students, but I hope that the little that they did get brought them some joy and happiness.
Thank you. Ms. Cunyo?
Just a couple of clarifications I'd like to ask you. I know you said that the students were the ones that filled out the insurance forms, but didn't you have to sign them?
No. They were submitted to the insurance agency without parents' signature.
Without a parent signature?
I sent a digital copy of what the insurance form looked like, and it was only my daughter's name. My signature was not on.
The reason I ask is because actually 2 of my sons just went on a school trip, and we went through everything, and they filled out a lot of the forms, but everything came back to us because everything had to be signed by us. So it's very unusual that an insurance is bought and paid for without a signature on the form. That's why I was asking that question. So that was 1. 2, this isn't a solution, it's just only a suggestion, but as a past president of what's called the Massachusetts Association of School Committee Members, we do have the Day on the Hill, and in the past, the Day on the Hill down at the State House in Boston, and in the past we have been able to bring students with us from the high school to the State House. It's a day that we go and we advocate it's almost like a miniature day of the day in Washington. And it's a day that we go and we advocate with our legislators. And if we could work something out maybe with our students and bring the students that were supposed to go on that trip and bring them down to the State House that day, I could help facilitate in bringing them to the legislators that day and have them represent the school while we're there, and also work something out with MASC. And we could work something out in that way. And not to discourage or try to cover anything up, I have gone to DC probably for the last 8 years to advocate. And even though we are supposed to be sitting down with our congressmen and women, there's a lot of times that we sit down with their staff. So please let the students know that just because they Skyped with their staff member, it didn't necessarily mean it was because they Skyped. It could have been that they could have sat down with that person too if they had gone in person. So that's just a suggestion. I was throwing it out there. Maybe we could do that. And in compensating maybe for the money, again, only a suggestion, to bring 32 students down to Boston, we're going to need a bus. So instead of maybe reimbursing the money for the trip, maybe we could cover the bus. Only a suggestion to throw out there. But I think it would be something that maybe we shouldn't go ahead and vote on tonight, but maybe have Ms. Valdez bring that back to the students and to the parents and see if that's what they want to do.
There's a motion on the floor by Ms. Vandekloot to reimburse 50%, approximately $115, seconded by Mr. Benedetto. It's a money paper.
So if I could just, Madam
Ms.
Mayor.
Vandekloot.
I think that it makes sense to go ahead and vote on this tonight and not hold it, because I think it would be a wonderful thing for the kids to go down to the Day on the Hill, but it's certainly not going to cost that much for a bus. And if it is there a bus, I think that's something that, you know, the school department can cover. So I would ask that we go ahead and vote for the refund to the parents, and while at the same time trying to ensure the kids have that opportunity.
Roll call vote. Mr. Scarry, please call the roll.
Okay, motion to reimburse the Washington students, and what was the final amount?
$115 each.
Scugnio?
I just have clarification that this would be a one-time, non-precedent, because of circumstances.
Yes.
We can have that
We
entered
can
into
add
the
that.
minutes.
Mr. Benedetto?
Yes.
Ms. Gretz?
Yes.
Ms. Stone? Yes. Mr. Scarry, yes. Ms. Vanderpool? Yes. Mayor Burke?
Yes, 7 in the affirmative, none in the negative, and if we could just enter into the record that this is a one-time agreement. On the motion, that was approved. Good work.
Okay, good.
Is there any other community participation before us this evening? Ms. Vandekloot, did you want to make an announcement on an upcoming event?
Just in a past event, I had the opportunity, as did the mayor, to attend on Friday morning the high school candidates forum, where our students portrayed the different candidates. It was so exceptional. I really wish all of you had been able to make it. And again, it was just one of those, the kids did such a great job. There were two members from the League of Women Voters there, and I kept on glancing over at them as they were hysterically falling off their seats. The kids did such a great job impersonating, knowing the candidates' positions, and, you know, going back and forth. And of course, it's been such a highly unusual year in some ways that it certainly lent itself to a fabulous presentation, and our students just did us really proud. It's a lot of fun.
Absolutely. Not only did they know the facts and where each candidate stood, but they took on their persona, and it was amazing. I mean, it could have been theater. It was really good. They did a great job. So kudos to the kids, and Ms. Kaiser had a role in that, and I believe Mr. teacher,
Mr. Milne.
Mr. Milne as well. So congratulations to all that participated.
So, Madam Mayor, you know, we'll provide the committee with a disc so you can play it over and over again.
Who won? Got a question.
I don't know. Who won?
There was a vote taken at the very end. Do we know?
Bernie won.
Bernie won.
Bernie won. Okay.
Okay.
See how he does tomorrow. Okay.
Is there any other community participation before us this evening? Hearing and seeing none. Close that portion. Report of the superintendent, recommendation to accept gifts to McGlynn Elementary School. Mr.
Madam
Superintendent.
Mayor, members of the committee, the principal of the McGlynn Elementary is here, and Diane Caldwell is here as well to give us this report.
I'd like to call Diane Garino, the principal of the McGlynn Elementary, up. And before she speaks, I just want to say what a collaborative effort it is on the part of our parents to provide the McGlynn Elementary and other elementary schools with donations and gifts, and want it to remain anonymous. And in addition to that, the McGlynn Elementary School also won a Medford Arts Council Award. So I'd like Diane to do some explaining.
Good evening, Ms. Garino.
Thank you, and good evening. The McGlynn Elementary School has been given a $600 donation from one of our families who wish to remain anonymous. This money is to be used for McGlynn events, assemblies, guest speakers, and performances. It can also be used to pay for buses for field trips that are planned throughout the year. The Medford Arts Council has awarded our school a $300 grant for the performance of Dance Caliente, a performance by Eileen Herman-Hess and Raul Neves. This performance will consist of several Latin dancers, followed by a brief talk of the geographical background of each dance, and a participatory lesson of the music, rhythms, and movements of the dances. Second grade students and teachers will be able to practice these dance moves on the stage at the end of the presentation. This is a fine example of how students can increase cultural awareness and diversity. And on behalf of the McGlynn staff and students, I would like to thank these people for their generosity.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. There's a motion for approval on the floor by Ms. DiBenedetto, seconded by Ms. Vanderklut. Mr. Scarry, roll call vote. Yes, 7 in the affirmative, none in the negative. The donation is accepted. And if we could send a letter to this anonymous person thanking them, please, Mr. Superintendent. Report on Professional Development Day, March 1st, 2016, tomorrow.
Madam Mayor and members of the committee, as you know, tomorrow is a Professional Development Day. There is no school for students at the schools tomorrow. So turn it over to our deputy and assistant superintendents to provide this report.
Good evening. As the superintendent said, tomorrow is our second full day of mandated professional development for teachers. We have a lot planned. We've enclosed a sheet that kind of gives you a snapshot of all of the various programs that are going on throughout the district. These programs were developed based on teacher input, administrative input, and some of the initiatives that we are currently undertaking in the district. Again, Diane and I worked collaboratively with this, a lot of details to work out. We're very excited to welcome our teachers tomorrow to what we feel will be a very exciting and productive day. I don't know, Diane, if you want to say anything else, but basically, I think you have everything in front of you in terms of the programs, so you may have some questions on specific programs that we'd be more than glad to answer. And Diane, if you want to add anything.
So as you can tell by our report, the elementary teachers and paraprofessionals will be going to the Brooks and the McGlynn elementary schools. They are aware of the parking situation because it is a primary day. We have a round-robin fast day ready for our elementary staff. There'll be workshops on energizers, on inclusion and differentiated instruction, managing behaviors, a lot of special education, and I know the middle and high school will be doing that as well. So we're happy to answer any questions this evening.
And just to add, the theme for the high school, vocational school, and McGlynn Middle School is on inclusive teaching. And it's not just about special education students or ELS students, but all of our students. And we have some wonderful consultants coming in, Seaside consultants, who have arranged for round-robin workshops that are dealing with different inclusive practices so that we can make sure that all of our students are well served with some of these new ideas and practices that they can add to their toolkits. So again, the Enders decided to have its own professional development workshop at the Enders because they are the one school that will be administering the PARC exam with the computerized version, and they felt the teachers needed the time to work on that to get the kids ready for that version. So that's why the Andrews is not in the mix with the whole group.
And I'd just like to take a moment to, and I know Beverly would too, to thank all of the principals, because at the elementary level, Diane Garino and Kathy Kay will be doing a workshop, and Kevin Andrews will be doing a workshop with Suzanne Galusi. So our principals are really stepping up to help us out. And in addition to that, my administrative assistant, Michelle Bissell, has just gone above and beyond to get everybody prepared for this day. And I know that Jeannie Glayona has as well.
She'll be at 6 with me tomorrow.
Right. Ms. Vanderkloot?
Is there parking set aside at each of the elementary schools for voters?
So the only two elementary schools we'll be using is the McGlynn and the Brooks Elementary School. We've asked our staff to park at Hormel Stadium or in the back of the McGlynn Elementary School so that voters can have that front area.
Okay.
And we've also told our Brooks to do on-street parking or in the back parking lot.
So where will voters park? Usually people park, there's a stretch along the side.
And
Will that will be open?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Great.
Thank you. Is there a motion to accept the report and place on file? So moved by Ms. Vanderkloot, seconded by Ms. Kretz. All in favor? All opposed? Papers accepted. Report on Parent-Child Home Program.
Madam Mayor and members of the committee, the Parent-Child Home Program has been with us for several years, but it's one of those programs that sometimes is not as well advertised or known among our early childhood initiatives. But it's a very important program. It's a program that sends home visitors, trained home visitors, into the homes of some of our least economically well-off individuals, and works with parents and children, building opportunities for those parents to learn how to use materials, toys, to educate their children. We sometimes forget that, when we have our own children, we're able to provide them with things and show them how to use educational materials or do an activity with them, that not all people have been trained to be parents. And not all people know how to use educational materials or how to actually grow a youngster and grow together. And this program is a very successful program. It is a nationally researched model, evidence-based. There was a program at the State House the other day, which I was fortunate to speak on a national level. Each family that's involved receives 92 hours of home visiting over a 2-year period. And we have 28 families right now who are participating with us. And you have a lot of information. I'm not going to go over it right now, but I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have. I think it's a terrific program. People are really good, and we've seen a lot of progress from youngsters who have come from this program, moving along to the family network and then all the way up into the elementary schools and along the way. We sometimes take it for granted that when a youngster comes to us, they all have the same background. That's not true. Some youngsters come to us in kindergarten with 1,500 words, and some come to us with 500 words, and there's a real difference. And they don't know how to play, and they don't know how to use materials.
Ms. Stone?
How are the parents identified?
We generally work with the schools. We work with the transitional assistance bureaus, and we try to find people through our various voucher programs and the like to identify those people. But we're always looking for people who want to participate. So if you've got some good people, we're interested.
Thank you.
Very good. Is there a motion on the floor to, Ms. Kretz?
I actually went online there was a video that you could watch online, and it was a great video, and it showed, one of the representatives going into a home and teaching the parent how to read to their student, and, going back again and putting a puzzle together, and it was really sweet, and, I'm really proud that Medford's part of this program, and, if there's any way that, because I know they're very low-income families, with their incomes are so low, like 20,000, some are 10. If there's any way that we could donate any, jackets or hats or clothing. I'd be interested in that, just from things that I have left over from my son and even some toys, because, it was, I was really surprised at how low the incomes were, so if you could let us know, even like adult clothing, for the parents.
Every year around the holidays, we conduct a drive, and I believe we took care of about 30 families with all kinds of materials and the like every year. And then the Voc does a food drive, and some of the other places do food drives and the like. So it's always in season to try and find a way to help families. And I believe the schools do a pretty good job doing that because they know the youngsters very well. And I'll tell you a story that goes back a long way, but there was a teacher who saw that a little girl in her classroom didn't have any gloves. So the little girl was very proud, and she didn't want to just give her gloves, and because they thought it was taking charity. But so she planted some gloves in the closet, and when the kids were putting their clothes on, she says, "Whose gloves are these?" And no one put their hands up. And the little girl who didn't have the gloves, kind of looked at him and said, "Well, if no one wants them, maybe you could use them." And that shows you what our teachers do. It's really quite remarkable how they find ways to not embarrass a youngster, but at the same time find ways to help them. And I know that there's a lot of private giving that goes on outside of our regular official channels. But this is a great program. It's a program that makes a difference. It also is a very important part of child abuse prevention. And there are several other programs like it, but this is a particular type of program. And you're going to see some things coming from the Children's Trust in the next little while as well that will reemphasize this area as well. So I think it's a great program, and it's important that you know about it. And if you know of families that are in need, we certainly are looking. And we keep looking for money. There was a woman in the audience at the State House the other day who had just given $150,000 to the program because she heard about it. She came and she and her husband wrote a check for $150,000.
Very nice.
Incredible.
Is there a motion on the floor to receive and place on file by Ms. Kretz, seconded by Ms. Vandekloot? All those in favor? All those opposed? Papers received. Report on proposed closing of St. Clements Elementary School. Mr. Superintendent.
So the pastor of St. Clements Elementary School has indicated that it's not sustainable going forward beyond this year. We have about 21 students there that would be there next year. We think they would be there if they were to continue. But class size there is very low, and while there are parents who would like to keep it open, I'm not sure it's economically sustainable. I'm not going to pass judgment on whether it is or it isn't or what's going to happen there. But it is important for us to anticipate the possibility of some of these youngsters wanting to come to our schools. We're going to outreach to them. Some of them may want to go to the other parochial schools that are in our area, some in Somerville, some here or in Arlington. But some of them may also want to go to charter schools. And while I'm not going to, rail against charters in any way, shape, or form, I'm just going to say that if they go there, it costs us money. So I would just as soon like to be in a situation where we offer people a chance to view our schools, to see the Columbus in that area, and potentially, come to our schools if that's a choice they would like to make. So I want you to be aware that we will outreach to St. Clements, and we will do our best to sensitively ask people if we can be of help.
Ms. Cunyo.
Through you to the superintendent, in what ways are we going to try to outreach to them? Like, are you going to try to find out in which district they go to? Are we going to ask them to come and visit our school system?
Diane is working on that.
Ms. Caldwell.
Oh, didn't even see you there, Diane.
So
Sorry.
we actually had this discussion today. What I would like to do is find out the names of the families who are currently at St. Clements, and we'll be looking for another place to go, and arrange to have a meeting at the high school, and then maybe over at our elementary schools so that they can take a tour of the buildings, meet the different principals, learn about our curriculum and the specific programs that we have. And I'd like to do that as soon as possible because I don't want families to be looking at other schools. So we'll be looking into that for the month of March.
Okay, no, that's a great idea. I think that the personal touch is the best that possibly could be done, and just giving them that opportunity of being welcomed to the school and showing them the school that they would be that their children would be going at, rather than just a letter stating, this is where you'd be going. So that's great, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Mr. Benedetto?
I just want to comment, I graduated from St. Clements, so I know a lot of the alumni, and I know there is a push to try to raise funds to keep the school open. I know they're doing fundraising and other things. I don't know how successful it will be, but I just wanted you to at least have that information. You know, they are keeping their preschool open, and they are keeping their high school open at this point. So I know that it's going to be hard for them not to have those schools. And I think part of it is because we're doing such a wonderful job in here in Medford that a lot of those children are already come back to the school district. So I want to welcome them as well as we can, but I also want to be sensitive that, you know, we don't want to rush them out if there is a play for them to stay open.
And we want to appreciate, you know, their wishes and their sensitivities. On the other hand, we also want to make sure that they know they have an option if they want it.
Very good. Is there a motion to receive and place on file, offered by Ms. Cunyo, seconded by Mr. Benedetto? All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion passes. Report on Chamber of Commerce meeting.
Madam Mayor, members of the committee, several of you were able to attend the Chamber of Commerce luncheon with the vocational school and the high school the other day. I think it was a very successful event. There were over 25 people from various businesses and entities in the city, in addition to many of our own staff, over 40 people. The report is in front of you. I'm not going to read every word because I think you know what was there, except to say that we think it's a win-win situation, an opportunity for us to showcase the kinds of programs and activities that we have, and make that strong offer that we want to partner more and more with the community to ensure that the community has access to our youngsters who are trained to do certain things, and our youngsters have access to jobs that might be within the community. I know in talking to several of the individuals who were there, they were very excited about it. It gave us an opportunity to showcase some things at the vocational school. It allowed us to talk a little bit about our program to work with youngsters who are disabled and who are looking for an opportunity to do something, even if it's only part-time, to help them build their confidence as well. And I think it was a great meeting. It was a good time. I think those people that went there really got a kick out of the good food that was put up by the Culinary Arts Department. And I'd be happy to take any questions you have rather than try to go through it, but several of you were there.
Mr. President, if I could, Mr. President. Mr.
Thank
President!
you very much. And if elected, I want to make Medford great again.
If I could from the chair. I know, really. We're all doing these Freudian slips. What's up with that?
Freud, where is he?
I just wanted to say what a great afternoon. What a great afternoon it was, and we got to see Ms. Kretz, who was featured in the video for the vocational school, and her son Noah, but the school department did a fabulous job. That video is wonderful, and it was just very eye-opening, and hopefully the community feels all of the great programming that is offered up there. So I hope that, I know Ms. Riggio is doing a fabulous job, but we need to really get the word out on that, and Mr. Klein's program for internships and co-ops, and all sorts of other things that the school department is doing. Great stories are happening within those walls, so thank you. Did you want to speak to Ms. Cunyo?
I unfortunately didn't have the opportunity to go to the school, but I am thrilled because for the last year and a half, actually, I've been speaking to Janet Donnelly, who is the director of the chamber, and this was something that I really felt needed to be done for our community, and I'm really happy that it's finally being done. As the superintendent, as the mayor said, it's definitely a win-win situation. It gives the opportunity for our students to go out there and work in our community, but give them the opportunity to work in the fields that they're thinking of maybe going into, but also giving the community, the business community, the sense of what type of students we have, and, you know, giving them pride of what we have. One thing I was concerned about, and I know that I've spoken to Amelia Westmark about this, and I have spoken to Ms. Donnelly about this, is that I'd like for our students to work in the businesses, but I also want to make sure that we don't take advantage of students that everything isn't always done just an internship. If we see that our students are really working in these businesses and they're thriving, is that the businesses will start paying our students too. You know, years ago, we had work study at the high school. We had open campus, which I'm not going for. Don't want open campus, but I do know that we did do work study, and our work study was that we did get jobs and then we got paid for them. So I'm just absolutely thrilled that we're giving our students this opportunity and that our businesses are seeing what our students are all about. So I'm really happy about this.
Both the food and the students served us as well. And they were excellent, very well mannered and polite, and did a good job. Is there a motion on the floor for approval to receive and place on file? All those in favor? All those opposed? The motion passes. Financial report. Oh, can I jump in first?
Sure.
We have a great announcement to make. Ms. Bailey, our finance director, has been awarded as a certified administrator of school finance and operations. So congratulations, Pat.
So Pat really worked hard on this. Not everybody has this. You know, it's not just a license to be a school business administrator. It's above and beyond. So we're very fortunate to have Pat doing a great job, and I'll let her tell you just how well we're doing financially.
We're very lucky to have you. Ms. Vanderkloot, did you want to jump in?
I did, because, you know, it doesn't surprise us because Pat goes above and beyond for everything she does. We're very, very lucky.
Yes, we are.
Now that I'm embarrassed.
So
we're about 65% expended, which is right on target for this time of year. We have basically payrolls are right on time. We're where we should be. We have one teacher on maternity leave and with 5 others pending. We're slowing down just a little bit this year, so it's kind of nice to see. The governor's budget update. The budget doesn't appear to project much change for us. A big change is coming in the kindergarten grant, and we just heard the first of the news today, and that they are going to gear a portion of that grant towards schools that do not ask for tuition for kindergartens, and they're going to use that money for other purposes. It is a first-come, first-served basis, so the superintendent is aware, as is the assistant superintendent, and will be acting on that. Again, the information is not real clear at this time. Heating of buildings, it's been warm. We're 13% below in less therms than we were a year ago, and overall about 20% for the year. I know, and every time I look at it, I'm nervous because it's like, so our February we did run the heat through a couple weekends that were exceptionally cold to try and minimize any maintenance damage, and we were able to do that, except for one thing that happened, and that was the very expensive water heater that went at the McGlynn, and that was $52,000. So, unemployment is at 55,671. Our projection is still 75,000. We have no new prior employees, and the current list really should start to diminish. We've had 2 snow days, February 5th and 8th. Projected last day is now June 20th. The snowless February allowed for a lot of painting, ceiling replacement in the A wing. It looks lovely, you should take a look. And some deep cleaning in other building areas. It helps when the guys and ladies are in the buildings and not outside shoveling. Professional development, I did not include this in there, but I know that will be of some concern. The secretaries have kind of a different professional development this time. When I first came on board a year and a half ago, I asked them to start working on procedure manuals. And so that every one of their jobs has a, oh my gosh, what should happen if I can't come to work for 4 to 6 weeks and someone has to step up to my desk? So tomorrow I'm going to be out reviewing their manuals, and they have a special little treat coming to them from W.B. Mason, and of course I will provide food because you can't show up without food if you're from Michigan. And so the budget year is progressing pretty much as planned, and the expectation is the MPS will complete the year as per the FY16 budget plan.
Thank you, Ms. Veal. Are there any questions? Mr. Benedetto.
Hi, thank you for a great report, Pat. I just noticed, though, the building and grounds in the athletic department, their totals are rising a little quicker than the rest of the district, so they're at like 85% rather than 65%. I just want to make sure we're on track and that, you know, that they won't be over towards the end of the school year.
As the superintendent will attest, it does tend to rise. We do a lot of work in the summertime, so we actually start out a little bit behind as school starts, but those are our heavy work months. And, but the heating should assist in covering that.
Okay, just checking. It's just want to keep an eye on those line items and make sure that we don't have to pull funds from other areas for those. Thank you so much.
On the motion to receive and place on file, offered by Mr. Benedetto, seconded by Ms. Cunyo. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. We have two papers under suspension. On the motion of Mr. Skerry, that the committee express its condolences to the family of Robert Drennan. Mr. Drennan was a member of the Medford High School football and baseball teams. After Medford High, Mr. Drennan continued his football career at Harvard and left to become a member of the Army's prestigious 10th Mountain Division. He was fluent in German and served as an interpreter when Patton's army liberated Buchwald and Dachau I'm not sure what this is. Ton camps in World War II. He returned to Harvard and received a master's degree in engineering. He leaves his sister Anne, a former teacher at the Hobbs Junior High School and former member of the Medford School Committee. Could all please rise for a moment of silence? On the motion by Ms. DiBenedetto, that all rental agreements and contracts for use of our high school batting cage gym fields be placed on hold until the school committee sets time, pricing, insurance, and other issues related to the use of these facilities can be determined. I would like to make a motion that the revenue received for all facilities be presented to the school committee on a quarterly basis in the same format the approval of bills, transfers of funds is presented. Ms. DiBenedetto.
Thank you so much. I spoke to the superintendent about this morning as well as the mayor. It came to my attention through many phone calls in the last 24 hours that the company called the Middlesex Reds baseball organization was advertising on their website, and I want to read to you what they have. This is a quote from their website. This past Sunday, February 21st, the 13U and 17U Junior Reds held part of their practices inside the new batting cage facility located inside Medford High School. The teams had part of their practice take place inside the new facility while also taking advantage of the warm weather and using the turf fields behind Medford High School. The entire program is excited about the new facility to go along with all the other amenities that is offered in and around Medford High School that the Reds use as their home. Facilities such as a large gymnasium that can hold 90-foot and 70-foot infield and 2 batting cages, 2 turf fields with lights, and now a brand new batting cage facility with 3 full-size tunnels and 2 smaller tunnels for short, soft toss drills. Red staff will be looking to add programs for all ages in the new facility, so stay tuned to this site and on our Facebook page for updates. So not only did they use our facility without prior approval, they are calling it the home of the Middlesex Reds baseball organization. In addition to that, they did make some notification that they used some of our parks. I think, I can't remember exactly which park. It might have been, is it Morrissey Park? They made comment of using that park as well. And then later, right before I left for school committee, I got another call that this company has been using our facility for the last 4 years. I personally don't know anything about it. If this is a new contract, it hasn't been brought forward. I'll let the superintendent speak for himself. When I saw this, I was really upset because we haven't even let our own students use this facility yet. And then we want to look at maybe community teams using it prior to going out to companies. This company advertises here a fee of $950, and I don't believe that's the whole fee for their season. I think that's just like a small fee for a small pot. I'm not sure of that. I don't know what, I didn't call them and ask them their pricing, but this is a for-profit company that's already been in our batting cages, according to them, prior to us even using them or cutting a ribbon to open them. So I'm gonna pass the floor to the superintendent. This is what warranted those two motions that I just put onto the floor.
Mr. Superintendent.
Okay, so let me say that I was as surprised as anyone else to find this out today. This is totally unauthorized, and it's not something that I'm aware of or have been aware of. But what I'm learning is that sometimes our coaches make deals through their booster clubs and through their own activities that sometimes give preferential treatment to certain vendors as part of their own fundraising. When someone uses our facilities, when someone uses our name, it needs to come through the appropriate channels of the public schools. Procurement, regulations, and the like mean that no one gets an advantage over anyone else when something like this is available. So there may be multiple groups that would like to utilize our facilities. In fact, just the other day, when I toured the facility, I mentioned to the mayor that we need to sit down and discuss how the facility could be used by different groups that I was sure would be interested in using it. I knew that our softball team and our baseball team would be definitively interested, and they needed to be given preference. But I also knew there'd be other groups that would like to use it, and that we needed to set up a process, and we needed to set up a structure for fees and other considerations, maintenance and supervision, in order to go forward with that. So when I learned of this afternoon, I was as angry as anybody, because I clearly felt that this was bypassing our normal appropriate process. And so I spoke to the director of athletics, and I let him know that I'm going to be meeting with the coaches, and no one is going to make any deal over any facility, over any program, under our control, unless we have an appropriate structure and there's an appropriate process of procurement. So I agree with you, it shouldn't have happened. I've instructed Mr. Maloney to inform the individual who has it up to take it down, and if it's not down, that individual will be barred by me from future activity. I'm very upset about it. I'm upset about it because we need to ensure that we have proper liability. We need to ensure that we have proper coverage. We need to make sure that the maintenance of that facility is well thought through, and that any revenue generated in that facility is properly placed and reutilized to maintain it and to further the programs that are under our direction. So I don't disagree, and I can assure you that we're going to go forward very quickly tomorrow to ensure that that's down and the information is out there, that an appropriate process will follow quickly. Remember, this thing's only been in place for a couple of weeks. It's only been set up recently. And I only had a chance to tour it the other day to make sure that I understood what was up there as well. So I don't disagree. We'll handle it, and we will bring it back to you so we can have an appropriate discussion.
Mr. Benedetto.
So I would like a report to the school committee about that meeting. I would also like an audit of all facilities, what we're renting them for, how much we're renting for, who's renting for them, how's the money getting brought to us. I want an overview of all of it. I also believe, and I'm sorry, but I know a lot of people aren't going to like this, but I really think that there needs to be a separation between our athletics and our community schools, because the athletic department should have to schedule things so that they're guaranteed their time, and then the rental piece has to be handled separately. I really think that merging the two is not in the best interest. I think there are funds that potential income that aren't being brought into the community, into the schools. So I really want to look at that this year at our budget. I know it's a cost to add a different person to take on, but it's 2 jobs, and it's two almost full-time jobs now. We have a lot more facilities than we used to throughout. We have the fields, we have the pool, we have the new batting cages. Now, this is a lot to run and schedule and bring in those funds, as well as run the whole athletic department for the whole district, really, you know? I just think it's time for us to look at it. We've been talking about community schools. I've been asking about money coming in, how we're utilizing them. I think they could be utilized more. They could be open to the public more classes could be used. But, you know, we can't have one person doing all of this work and expect it to be done to, you know, to things not slip through. And he's done an incredible job for our community, especially in all the years that we could not have running what we had. I've seen the man out in the fields chasing geese away to make sure that the kids had a safe place to play at 6 in the morning when I used to walk the track. I mean, this is a lot of work, and we need to look at this. As a school committee, we need to look at this and make sure it's fair for everybody throughout the community, and the use is for our students. This place is called the Waltham Reds. Before. Now it's the Middlesex Reds. They're based out of Waltham, but they're calling Medford their home. Like, what else is going on that we don't know about? And we need to look at it, and we need to have these answers, and I want them brought here. So I'm requesting that audit to be completed.
So, obviously, we need a discussion about the organization of community schools and athletics. There's pros and cons to what you're suggesting, and we'll have that discussion, and we'll provide you with a full report. We were planning to have a meeting on this anyway, but, you know, with the changeover and everything else like that, we haven't gotten to it. There have been other things that have taken our time. But we will have that meeting, and we will move forward. And I want you to see it because I think it's massive. There are other things that are coming up. We have a discussion about the rink that's going to have to be discussed very soon because the Department of Conservation and Recreation wants to turn it over to the city, and there's some implications for that. We already do have it right now, but if we take full control, there's new expenses associated with that. All these things need to come together as a full discussion. So it's timely, but I think we should reserve judgment as to the best organizational arrangement. But that's a discussion that we can have, and you have the right to make a decision. So let's go over it, and we'll move to set up something in the very near future that will allow us to have a productive and comprehensive discussion.
Ms. Cunyo.
I just want to go back to what Erin said. I mean, she mentioned something about this company using our fields. I mean, I understand that the batting cages are new, but Erin, you read something about them using our fields for the last 4 years. Now, does Mr. Maloney know anything about them using our fields for the last 4 years?
I have no idea that they were doing that. So,
okay.
You know,
because, I mean, not for anything, but I remember distinctly sitting down. We've had numerous committees of the whole discussing the process, the structure, the fees of the structure. We sat down with Mr. Maloney. We made sure that, I remember this full discussion of making sure everything was going to be across the board. We didn't want to give one organization one fee and another organization a different fee because we didn't want to start that game. And now, you know, we're sitting here saying 4 years later, now we don't know, and I'm not blaming anybody.
We don't know if that's the case, though, on the fields.
I'm sorry?
We don't know if that's the case on the fields.
Well, that's why I wanted to make sure. I wanted to ask Mr. Maloney or through you.
Let me say it this way, okay? We have a number of organizations that support our athletic teams, and we certainly don't want to discourage them from supporting them with these various booster clubs and support groups and the like. But they can't be making arrangements using our name and our facilities because they think that they have a privileged role to play. And coaches cannot make decisions for the school system. And there are too many situations like this that I'm becoming aware of that I don't like. And so that's going to stop. And this just brings it to a head. And we'll deal with it. And we'll deal with it effectively. We had some discussions that were overreaching discussions about how we might be able to raise more money and do some things, but we left it strictly to the coaches and the athletic department to sort of pull it together. We never really finished off that discussion. So it's time. And we need to make it happen. And I don't want to ever be in a situation like this where I have to stand here and tell you I don't know. That's embarrassing to me. I don't like it. I was very upset this afternoon. In fact, I was yelling on the telephone, and that's not like me.
Concur with Darren, as far as, you know, when Mr. Maloney got this position, it was the athletic department, and it was, at that point in time, our pool was closed, the fields had just opened, we really didn't have the batting cages, the rink wasn't around. Now things are really setting up. I think it is definitely time that, like you said, we were gonna have this discussion anyway. It's definitely time that we're trying to make more money for our schools. We know in the last few years, we've talked about our community schools, we've talked about bringing in more courses and classes that we've done, and it's impossible for one person to take care of it all and then not have something fall. So, you know, it's due time that we look at this again. I definitely agree that it's definitely something that we have to look at quicker, rather than, you know, sooner rather than later.
Thank you. Ms. Vanderkloot.
So the superintendent alluded to the fact that, in fact, in the fall, there were other concerns, a concern about a group using the McGlynn on weekends and also posting pictures of the McGlynn Auditorium. And at that point, we raised this issue, and it was simply because of the timing of the election and whatever that it was put off. But it's definitely time that we take it off. It's not just about the fields, it's about the entire process of school facilities being used by outside groups. And, you know, it's just to be clear, we have had in the past contracts and rates and everything else set up in the past, very clearly demarcated. I sat on those committees for years, but clearly something is not now being utilized. So I think this needs to be a committee of the whole, the discussion. And I would ask, I certainly would support Erin's amendments, if you might repeat them, but I think that we're all on the same page that this is something we absolutely need to look at sooner rather than later.
Don't disagree.
Ms. DiBenedetto.
Thank you. I would also request at this time that the school committee tour the new facility as
We
a group.
could on the evening of the committee of the whole.
Yep, I would appreciate some time to do that. And also, I believe that we should cut a ribbon so that way the community.
It's already, we're working on that.
Okay, great. So could you read our motions again so that my colleagues can take a vote?
Motion of Ms. DiBenedetto that all rental agreements and contracts for use of our high school batting cage gym fields be placed on hold until the school committee sets time, pricing, insurance, and other issues related to the use of these facilities can be determined. Number 2, I would like to make a motion that the revenue received for all facilities be presented to the school committee on a quarterly basis in the same format the approval of bills, transfers of funds is presented. On the motion as offered by Mr. Benedetto, seconded by Ms. Vanderkloot, all those in favor? Roll call vote has been requested. Ms. Cunha, did you want to speak prior to the roll call?
Yes, I did, actually, only because I know that you said to put it, to place everything on hold. I'm just concerned with the people that actually, or organizations that actually have contracts to utilize our gym or whatever. I don't want to see them not utilize
The gym
it.
in the fields? No, this is
No,
for
it didn't
use
say-
of, not
yeah.
for additional use of.
There was no additional on there, so could we amend that?
Would you like to amend to pull out gym and fields?
Yeah.
So it's just the batting cage that we're suspending.
I just don't want to interfere with, that there are programs right now that are in the middle, and I don't want to send them away.
They're planning the fields usage now, so they need to have, the pricing has been set, so they need to go forward to book the added time. But high school sports always comes first, no matter what, so.
Okay, and could we also add, if you don't mind, how much we pay the employees that are in the security of the fields and whoever else we have up there, so we know how much we're spending?
So revenue and expenses. Okay.
Thank you.
On the motion as amended on both papers 1 and 2, that the words gym and fields be deleted. In the first one, all those in favor? All those opposed, the motion carries as amended. And in the second one, the report for the revenues and expenses be received, adding expenses to that document. Roll call vote, Mr. Scarry, on this one?
Yes.
Yes, 7 in the affirmative, none in the negative, the motion passes. Also, while we're under suspension, we have an additional paper that the school committee resolution, is it for both of them? Sorry. Be it resolved that the Medford School Committee expresses sincere condolences to the family of Gladys Mazeka. Mrs. Mazeka was a retired custodian for the Medford Public Schools. Mrs. Mazeka was the mother of Medford security guard Lieutenant William Mazeka, custodian Stephen Mazeka, and the grandmother of elementary art teacher Michelle Mazeka. Also, we'd like to offer our condolences on the passing of Nina Rexroad,
Who was at the Kids Corner.
who's at the Kids Corner. She was a teacher at the Kids Corner. All please rise for a moment of silence, please. Thank you. These three. And the J. We have the other two as well. We're at the end of our meeting. We have negotiation and legal matters that we would request that we go into executive session. There's a motion on the floor to go into executive session. Roll call vote, please. Mr. Scarry.
Yes.
Yes, 7 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative. We will now go into executive session and we will not be returning back. This is the final item on the agenda.